Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. So this time we're diving into a topic that's been generating a lot of buzz online. We got a ton of requests from you guys to look into the relationship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one.
We're talking about, well, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, and former President Trump. And you guys sent over a fascinating mix of sources for this deep dive.
Yeah, let's see. We've got a Telegraph article, pretty lively Reddit thread, even some stuff from Trump's own social media.
It's like a puzzle with pieces from all over the place. But that's what makes it so intriguing, right? So where do we even begin with this?
Well, the Telegraph article is a good starting point. They broke the story that, get this, Elon Musk is apparently living at Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago? Like
Yeah.
Trump's Mar-a-Lago.
The one and only.
I mean, I guess it makes sense in a way. They're both these larger-than-life figures, right?
Right, but here's the thing. He's not exactly living in the lap of luxury. The Telegraph reports he's staying in this cottage, Banyan Cottage, I think it's called. A cottage, not some massive mansion. This is the guy who could buy any house in the world.
Exactly. And it's not exactly cheap either. Apparently, it costs at least $2,000 a night to stay there.
So what's the deal? Why would the world's richest man choose to live in a cottage at Mar-a-Lago?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Well, the Reddit thread has been buzzing with theories.
Yeah. Like what?
Some people think it's all about access. Like, being at Mar-a-Lago puts Musk right in the center of Trump's world, the center of the universe, to use a phrase Trump himself used to describe it.
I remember seeing that post. The center of the universe.
Yeah.
Very Trumpian.
Very. And there's also the idea that this is some sort of strategic move by Musk, like he's trying to keep a close eye on Trump, maybe even influence him.
It's interesting, there's this concept that the Reddit users brought up. It's called object permanence. It's a psychology term that basically means that even when something's out of sight, we still know it exists.
Okay, but how does that apply to Trump and Musk?
Well, some people are suggesting that for Trump, maybe being physically present, being a constant presence in his environment, might have a bigger impact on his thinking. Like, it just keeps those ideas top of mind.
So by being right there at Mar-a-Lago, Musk is sort of guaranteeing that Trump can't ignore him. He's always there, always a presence.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder what those conversations are like. The Telegraph mentioned that Musk has injected a pretty hefty sum of money into Trump's 2024 campaign.
Over $250 million, they said.
Right. And he used his social media platform to rally voters, too. I mean, think about that influence, the power to reach millions of people with a single message.
Absolutely. In a close election, that kind of support could be decisive.
Definitely. And the Telegraph also detailed the kind of access Musk has. I mean, he's attending dinners with people like Jeff Bezos, sitting in on calls with world leaders like Zelensky, spending hours with Trump in his private office.
It's pretty remarkable. It makes you wonder if he's acting as a sort of, shadow advisor.
Right. What does that mean for actual policy decisions? Is he shaping things behind the scenes? And the Telegraph even said that Trump had to publicly deny that Musk would be, taking over the presidency.
It's like this idea of Musk as a political figure isn't so outlandish anymore.
No, it's not. And the Reddit thread has been exploding with comparisons. Some people are saying it's like when historical figures, establish those second seats of power.
That's a pretty loaded comparison. It definitely raises the question of whether Musk has political ambitions beyond, just advising.
I mean, think about his plans for a Department of Government Efficiency. The Telegraph article goes into some detail about that. He's talking about shrinking the federal government, possibly even, firing hundreds of thousands of civil servants and closing whole agencies.
Yeah, that's some pretty radical stuff. It's hard to imagine the impact of something that massive.
Right. The potential fallout, both economically and politically.
Huge. It's interesting, though. The Telegraph mentioned that even figures like Senators Fetterman and Sanders have voiced some support for this idea.
Wait, really? That's wild. Two senators with totally different ideologies agreeing with Musk. Maybe there's something to this idea of his that transcends the usual political divides.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch. And it's not just domestically either. The Telegraph even brought up his criticism of the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his kind of, favorable comments about the far-right AfD party in Germany.
So he's making waves on the international stage, too.
It seems so. It's like he's becoming this global political force, whether he intends to or not.
And that's just scratching the surface, right?
Right. There's so much more to unpack. Like, what does it all mean for the future of technology, business, even the balance of power on a global scale?
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But that's what we're here for, right? To dive deep and try to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And to help you, the listener, connect the dots and come to your own conclusions. This is just the beginning of our exploration, so buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.
It definitely will be. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's get back to Musk's life at Mar-a-Lago. It's not all political strategy and global influence, right? There's a personal aspect to this, too.
True. The Telegraph did mention that Musk has been seen around Mar-a-Lago with his kids, their nannies, and even Siobhan Zillis, who's one of the mothers of his children, and apparently worked at Neuralink.
Wow. It's almost easy to forget that amidst all this talk of power and influence, he's also, a dad.
And it adds another layer to his story, right?
Right.
How does this environment shape him, his family, his worldview?
We're talking about the intersection of family life, political gamesmanship, massive business ventures, cutting-edge technology.
And the implications, they're huge. I mean, Musk's choices could have ripple effects, not just here in the U.S., but across the globe.
That's a lot of weight on one person's shoulders. And we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
Exactly. There's so much more to uncover.
And that's what we'll be doing in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Picking up where we left off with Musk's impact.
Yeah.
I mean, the Reddit thread is a total roller coaster when it comes to his ideas about shaking up the government.
Yeah, it's like a battleground. Some people are all for it. It's about time somebody took a sledgehammer to the bureaucracy.
Right. But then you have others who are, well, terrified. They're worried about essential services getting gutted, vulnerable populations being left high and dry.
It's a big question, right? How do you balance efficiency with making sure people are taken care of?
Exactly. And then you have Trump himself. The Telegraph even quotes him saying, no, he's not taking the presidency.
Can you imagine having to actually say that out loud? Having to publicly deny that the world's richest dude isn't about to become, the most powerful person on the planet?
It's almost surreal, isn't it? This whole thing feels like something out of, I don't know, a sci-fi movie.
And yet here we are, trying to make sense of it all.
That's what this deep dive is all about, right?
Yeah.
Giving you the tools to understand the complexities, to form your own opinions.
To see beyond the headlines, right? Because there's always more to the story.
Always. And in this case, one of those layers is the potential conflict between, well, Musk's role in the Trump administration and, his own business interests.
Right. I mean, the guy's a walking conflict of interest, right? Tesla, SpaceX, all those companies relying on government contracts, subsidies.
The Telegraph brought up some serious ethical questions about that. How can he advocate for a smaller government when his own companies are benefiting from it?
It's a bit of a head-scratcher, right? And the Reddit folks are already worried about whether he'll put his own companies first, ahead of any political agenda.
Yeah. Is he going to serve two masters?
Or is there a way to, somehow make it work for both sides?
Transparency is going to be key here.
Yeah.
Or will there be a level playing field for other companies in those industries? And speaking of transparency, the Telegraph dropped a bomb. Musk's already bringing in teams from his companies to help with the transition.
Whoa. So he's not wasting any time. I mean, it shows commitment, right? But it also raises some red flags.
Definitely. It blurs the lines between, private enterprise and government. And that's got some people on Reddit talking about, the rise of corporate power, the dangers of plutocracy.
Right. Is this the beginning of, a world where wealth equals political power?
It's a valid concern. We're seeing this growing anxiety about the concentration of wealth and power. And Musk diving headfirst into politics just, it throws gasoline on that fire.
It's like we're witnessing this fundamental shift in how power works in the 21st century.
And nobody really knows what the rule book is anymore.
Exactly. It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Where do we even start trying to understand it all?
That's where critical thinking comes in. Don't just swallow what you're fed, Do your own research, consider different perspectives, come to your own conclusions.
It's more important than ever to be informed, right? To be engaged citizens, especially in a world where technology, wealth, and politics are all tangled up.
Don't forget the power of your own voice. Talk about these issues, share your thoughts, and hold those in power accountable. You have a role to play in shaping things.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? Spark a conversation, get people thinking.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to explore.
And that's what's so exciting about this whole deep dive thing. It's like we're all on this journey of discovery together.
Exactly. We're all figuring it out as we go.
And now, are you ready for the final part of our deep dive? Things are about to get really interesting. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into, this whole Elon Musk-Donald Trump situation. And I think it's safe to say things have gotten pretty wild.
Yeah, we've gone from Musk living in a cottage at Mar-a-Lago to talking about potential global power shifts.
Right. It's been a whirlwind. But you guys sent us these sources because you want to understand what it all means, where it's all heading. What does the future look like with Musk in this position of power?
Yeah, the future. That's the big question, isn't it? We're seeing this merging of tech, wealth, and political power, and it's unlike anything we've seen before.
The Telegraph article even uses the word dystopian at one point, bringing up those sci-fi stories where, like, corporations have become more powerful than governments.
It's funny, that used to seem like pure fiction, but now,
Yeah,
I don't know, it feels closer to reality than ever.
think about it. Musk already has this huge influence over space travel, electric vehicles, even the way we communicate online. What happens when that influence extends into, like, actual government policy?
It's a little scary, to be honest.
Some people on Reddit are already comparing him to, like, Augustus Caesar, you know, amassing power through wealth, political maneuvering, popular support.
It's always tricky to draw those historical parallels, but it does raise some concerns. Concentrated power, no matter how well-intentioned the person might be, it's inherently dangerous.
Yeah. Even if Musk truly believes he's doing what's best for the country, even for humanity, having that much power in one person's hands, it's risky.
The Telegraph actually quotes a political analyst who warns about this exact thing. He calls it the danger of a benevolent dictatorship. Even well-meaning leaders can make mistakes or get corrupted by power over time.
And the other big question, right? Transparency and accountability. If Musk is basically operating as this, like, shadow advisor to Trump who's keeping him in check.
Right. Are his decisions subject to the same level of scrutiny as, elected officials?
It all feels very new and, I don't know, uncertain. We're in uncharted territory.
That's true. But it's also what makes it so fascinating, right? We're watching this shift in power happen in real time, and it's up to us as citizens to figure out how to navigate it.
Do we embrace this new world of, like, tech and politics merging? Or do we push back against it?
It's a tough question. So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want to leave our listeners with?
Good question. I guess more than anything, I want them to remember that they have a voice, that the future isn't set in stone. It's something we create through our choices and actions.
So stay informed, stay engaged, don't be afraid to question things, challenge the status quo. Because the future,
Yeah.
it's in our hands.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this, well, pretty crazy exploration. We hope you found it informative, maybe a little thought-provoking, and hopefully not too overwhelming.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep learning, keep questioning, keep shaping the world you want to see.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.